Happy New Year's, 49ers fans. It's New Year's Eve. We've got news about Brock Purdy's injury. This episode of the day after will be about what's going to happen going forward, taking a look back at yesterday. There were a lot of positives and just basically reflecting on the entire season. I got a special guest. She's in the background. I'm guessing you can hear. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome, everybody. Let's go, Niners. My name is Jason Aponte. I'm Jason Aponte. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Happy New Year's Eve to everyone who's watching. Enjoy the time with your family. Please enjoy your time responsibly. We do have some news. At the end of the game last night, Brock Purdy left with an injury, which it really triggered a lot of PTSD within 49er fans, regardless of where you sit on the whatever Brock Purdy should make. Again, the pocket watching thing. But he went to throw the football again, and he said, I can't feel anything. It just made you remember the NFC Championship game. Made you remember when he tore his UCL. So, after the game, Kyle said it's nerve stuff. I don't really think that calmed anyone down. I think with the way that this team discloses the injuries, one day it's just, it was this, and the next day it's his arm needs to be cut off. So I think everybody kind of got a little bit nervous, and then you hear Brock Purdy say it felt like it was on fire, very similar to the Philadelphia game. But we got good news today. Apparently, it is nerve irritation. It's not the UCL, and Brock Purdy will not play against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 18, which is fine with me, especially when you consider who the 49ers were running out there at offensive line. Although, shout out to Charlie Heck and Austin Pleasance and Nick Zakelj. They did all right. And funny enough, the highest graded pass blocker yesterday was Colton McKivitz. He allowed 1 sack and 1 pressure, but he was the highest graded. So Brock Purdy will not play in Week 18. Essentially, now we just go into the offseason and we start thinking about what this is going to look like. For me, it sets up a really good narrative of Josh Dobbs, it's time. It's time for you to get your revenge game narrative going. So he scores a touchdown at the end of the game, and we'll get into the game and everything, but I wanted to open up with the Brock Purdy stuff because it is a sigh of relief. And I think any sort of injury to the UCL or to that arm would only complicate things when it comes to what his contract negotiation is going to look like, what people believe, all that stuff. For me now, it just feels like that's it. Shut it down. Wait for next season. And during the offseason, we'll get this thing figured out. I don't think that, and I did see this take a lot. So if I'm tripping, just let me know. I did see this take a lot. I don't necessarily believe that Brock Purdy's lost himself a ton of money. I think when you contextualize everything that's going on in the season, and again, yesterday, and when I talked about it on the instant reaction, yesterday's 2 interceptions, those are both on Brock. There's ways to contextualize interceptions that's not on him. A guy falls down and the ball just goes over his head, or, hey, it got batted in the air. This was, you sail the ball over Ricky Pearsall's head, and then you try to get to Ricky Pearsall again, and you didn't see Kirby Joseph, who has all the interceptions in the world, apparently, had 3 in this game. 2 of them actually counted, and he made a play. So for me, it's easier to contextualize those interceptions because they were on Brock. But then there's other times when you look through the season and you're looking through the numbers and you're saying, look at we have to go through all of those things. And then how do we do that? We have to do that with injuries, with offensive line play, with our guys creating separation. Was it a good decision? There's so much that goes into all that. So I think, Averly. So I think, again, when you talk about this and you start to go through it, we're going to have to go through this all the way through. And I think the resume is going to be bigger than any one game. This isn't an MVP situation in which someone has a huge game and all of a sudden they're the MVP. This season and everything that goes on, I'm sure the front office, by the way, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch will be back, Jed York, very plainly stated that to Tim Kawakami. I think all of it needs to be contextualized with, hey, these have been some injuries. You face this kind of defense. This was the weather. This was the throw. All of those things need to play a part. And I think the front office will take a look at that. Now, what's going to be the strategy? That's going to be the part that I think fans get uncomfortable with because negotiations get contentious. They do. They absolutely get contentious. And how does it start? I start with a number up here. You say that you're only willing to go here. Then we break off talks and we come there's going to be plenty of stories that come out about The 49ers and Brock Purdy are not close. They've stopped talking. Like, we've seen this with everyone. Now, whether it's louder in the media because it's Brock Purdy and it's a quarterback, than it was with others is completely different. But I just want to I guess I'm just trying to soften the blow and condition people to understand that you shouldn't go freaking out every time you see one of these stories pop out and someone says, "Oh, they're far apart," and this and that. Like, all of that stuff is just noise, and all of that stuff is things that are happening. Think about Averly, turn it down. Think about your job. When you go in and you ask for a raise. When you ask for a raise, you don't ask for the amount that you really want. You ask for the amount that's higher up because you want to meet in the middle. And I would imagine that's how football players and athletes and agents actually start their talks and everything. So why should this be any different? So one game isn't going to swing you away from what should happen, right? And I think that's the part. Like, emotions were high yesterday, right? And you're like, "Oh, he's played bad in the fourth quarter this year and everything." It's a good thing. His contract extension wasn't up for next year, like for the year before. I mean, because what would the 49ers have been able to say to somebody who had like such an efficient year in that way? So everything's just kind of coming fast, and everyone's looking to get their take off, and everyone's looking to say that I said this on December 31st. Ha ha ha. Come back and look at this. But negotiations, like everything in life, are fluid. And an entire resume needs to be considered. It doesn't have to just be, well, in a meaningless game against the Detroit Lions, man, we saw you through 2 interceptions. We're out. We're out. I don't think that's how it works. That game should go in with the resume. It should go all together. But everything that's happened this season has kind of just been weird, obviously. And obviously we can talk about the entire year, Averly. Shh. We can talk about the entire year because it's December 31st. And we could talk about the entire offseason. The 49ers last played a football game. Well, first played a football game in 2024 in the playoffs, and then in the Super Bowl they lose. And then the offseason kicks off. Ayuk, Williams, the shooting of Ricky Pearsall. Just everyone kind of like, Ayuk's gone, Ayuk's back, Ayuk's out. We're sending him, like, all of those things start, and then you have all the injuries. Now, Christian McCaffrey can't play week 1. Christian McCaffrey just plays 4 games. Dre Greenlaw comes back. He only plays 1 game. Fred Warner fractures his ankle. Nick Bosa misses a bunch of games. All that stuff has to be thrown in here. Now, is that the direct reason that the 49ers have this record? No. It's one of the reasons, and there is no one reason. That's the other thing. So the entire year's been funky and a little weird for everybody. The return that you got on the investment for Trent Williams this season, 4 or 5 games. The return on the investment that you got for Brandon Ayuk, 4 or 5 games, and he got hurt. George Kittle's missed games. He's been phenomenal. Christian McCaffrey didn't play at all. Jordan Mason got hurt. This year has just been funky. And it's just been hard to really just sit here and say, this is the one reason the 49ers have had this issue. This is the one reason it's everything. I've said this many times. It's coaching, it's execution, it was effort at times, it's special teams, it's clutch factor, it's all of these things, everything. So this season's really weird. And I hate to think that a season in which so many things that were weird and kind of thrown at the 49ers, where they had to dodge curveballs, and would be the reason that, you make a final decision. It's a part of the resume, but it's not the full resume. And again, offense didn't execute in the red zone. Defense doesn't make clutch plays. Special teams doesn't do anything. Coaching has failed. Players aren't executing. All those things happen. All of those things happen, and everyone is to blame. Everyone owns a piece of this season. Everyone does. It's not one thing over the other. It's none of the things really went right this season, and that boils down to, Debo gets pneumonia, and obviously the thing that happened with Ricky Pearsall, and then the injury to Ayuk, and the injury to Hargrave, and now the injury to this guy and that guy, and you're signing linemen off the street to just finish up the season. It shouldn't be the reason that you make a swing decision on someone when the entire season, Averly, shh, when the entire season has been a shit show since it started, from top to bottom, everything, from moment one, everything. Everything's been weird. So I guess that's what I want to say. We have tons of time to talk about the Brock Purdy thing. But this season, now that December 31st, when you're here for New Year's, you always start to think back on the year. I've just been reflecting on the 49ers year. And this has been one of the batshit craziest years of ever. Ever. From all of the things that I talked about. The first round rookie gets shot. The personal tragedies. Mooney Ward loses a kid. Trent Williams loses a kid. Shout out to Mooney Ward. Congratulations. I heard you had another kid. Great. I love that. Congratulations. All the injuries, the execution, the fourth quarter failures, the coaching, the effort, all of that stuff. Everything's been fucking weird. Everything. So the idea, Averly, turn it down. So the idea that one person is responsible or one person should fall on the sword. No. Everyone takes a piece of this blame. Shout out to everybody in here over 10 minutes in. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. We could talk about last night's game because I thought there were a lot of positives coming out of it. I've already talked about Brock Purdy. 2 horrible interceptions, in my opinion. He was very good in large stretches of that game. That offense looked like the offense we saw last year. You're getting everyone involved. Use check touchdown. Everybody but Kittle and Garendo and Jennings, right, for touchdowns. It looked good. It looked really good. Brock has 4 total touchdowns. Looks good. One thing that really, really looks good is now back-to-back weeks, your first-round rookie receiver who's taking a lot of flack for the fact that Ladd McConkey is now over 1,000 yards, and he's one of 3 rookie wide receivers, I believe. It's him, Neighbors, and Brian Thomas that are over 1,000 yards, and everyone's saying, well, we could have had him. Fine, but back-to-back weeks, Ricky Pearsall has really looked good. And I thought the biggest takeaway, besides the fact that Ricky had so many great catches and had sparkling numbers and led the team in yards per route run and average depth of target, was more kind of the way that they were utilizing him. And it felt like they let Deebo Samuel know before the game, we're not going to split you out wide. We want Ricky Pearsall to play more and get more of those reps. And that's a bold thing to do because we don't know how Deebo is going to react when he hears that, but it worked. And if you're worried about the culture, it worked because Ricky got everything that he needed and more. And who was the first person to congratulate him after the touchdown? It was Deebo Samuel. So the culture is good. The team had showed effort. But Ricky Pearsall getting reps over Deebo Samuel at this conjuncture of the season, I thought that was a great job by Kyle. I thought it was great. So, yeah, and Ricky Pearsall looked great. So that's back-to-back weeks with Ricky Pearsall. But looking good. Averly, please be quiet. It's back-to-back weeks with Ricky Pearsall playing very well. And now you can stack one more week on it. Most likely it's going to be Josh Dobbs, maybe Brandon Allen, who knows. So maybe it'll be 3 weeks. And you can carry that into the offseason. The young man's going to work. He'll come back, and he'll probably have a role much larger depending on what happens and who stays and who goes. So Ricky Pearsall, very good. A+. No notes in this one. No notes. Great job. That one-handed catch I posted on the timeline, amazing. And just finding a way to get himself open. I thought I was really impressed with him too in the Miami game, facing Jalen Ramsey and coming back and beating on press man. That's the things. Those are the things you want to see. You're worried about Ricky Pearsall. Will he be able to throw this into his bag of tricks, right? And you just need to see it. And you've seen it the last 2 weeks, and that's really good, honestly. So you get one more week of this, and then you take that in there. Now, on the flip side, Jacob Cowing, you're getting on the field, but you're fucking up your chances, for lack of a better word. And I hope there aren't any kids in the room. Avery can't really hear me. She's got headphones on. But you get on the field finally, and they run one of those pick plays for Kittle, and then you take away a long reception, based on not knowing the little subtle nuances of what you need to do and just running and bowling into 2 receivers. That's the easiest way for Kyle Shanahan to say, all right, doghouse, bye. And we thought the same thing with the Miami game with Pearsall not lining up in the right spots. Obviously, that's going to come with reps, but he bounced right back. Cowing is he's struggling to find some time to play, and then when he does, it's not really working, unfortunately. And I think I'm excited for Jacob Cowing. I love the draft pick, but he's got to work a little bit harder. He's got to understand the finite details, the little things, right? Like that's why Chris Conley is going to keep getting burned over you because he understands things like that. So on the flip side, one guy is figuring it out. On the other side, one guy is just continuing to make the mistakes that he's been making as a rookie. And, who knows how long that's going to last. I'd love to see a bunch of Jacob Cowing in week 18, but, Juwan Jennings is trying to set personal high record for receiving yards. And if it is Josh Dobbs that plays, remember, they were teammates. So that goes a little bit further than that. And if you need any evidence at the Averly, turn it down. And if you need any more evidence of that, it's at the end of the game, Josh Dobbs is throwing the football to Juwan Jennings over and over because they have that connection. So Ricky Pearsall up, Jacob Cowing down. I was impressed with George Kittle, obviously, and I wanted to kind of talk about his season because I feel like it's a little bit lost in translation. And I think we're all just kind of, hey, George Kittle's here and he's playing well and we're all excited and we love that. But kind of wanted to point something out that's really funny to me. By the way, I already said that George Kittle's missed 2 games. Trey McBride has played 15 games. Brock Bowers has played 16 games. Here are your numbers. Brock Bowers has 108 catches on 144 targets for, my goodness, for 1,144 yards. And Averly, turn it down. Go over there, Averly. 1,144 yards. Right behind him, Trey McBride, 1,081 yards on 104 catches. Remember, 104, 108. And those are the top 2. George Kittle is 2 yards behind Trey McBride with only 76 catches, 14.2 yards per catch, 77.1 yards per game, and 8 touchdowns. George Kittle's having an incredible season, an insanely efficient season. And that's the part that we can't lose here because he's going to be a surefire Pro Bowler. He should be an All-Pro. He is the best tight end in football. And I don't want to lose that because of all of the negativity around everything else. We're looking for positives. The positive is this. George Kittle needs to stay here and go right into the Ring of Honor and never leave the San Francisco 49ers, ever. And further than his production is his leadership. Him and Fred Warner had every right to say, I don't feel like playing in this game. I'm banged up. I'm hurt. Nick Bosa, I'm hurt. But the culture, right? Has Kyle Shanahan lost the locker room? Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I don't think so. Because look at the leaders and look at the guys setting the example. And George Kittle is that. So I just wanted to give George Kittle his flowers because he should be a lifetime 49er. If you're talking about extensions, who should go, who should stay, regardless of his age right now, George Kittle is still the best tight end in football. Still. And it's been an absolute pleasure to watch him this season. And this is a good point too. I like this. Brock Bowers did all that with 4 quarterbacks this year is really cool. He did. He absolutely did. He's a great player. Brock Bowers and Trey McBride are the future of the position. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that today that either of them are better than George Kittle. When you throw in the blocking, I don't really think it makes it that much close. So yeah, George Kittle, still the present of the position. Those guys are going to be the future. And if Brock Bowers ever gets himself a quarterback who really, really can stick around and help lift the Raiders, then he could really see some crazy numbers. But as of right now, it's still Kittle. But it is exciting to see the position everywhere. So, and more than anything, again, this season has just been hard to find positives, right? Even it feels like whenever anyone talks about this team, even in a positive, there's some sort of negativity in it, one way or another. It's like, well, yeah, he's doing it. And then there's always but. Well, there's no but with George Kittle. There's no but with George Kittle. He's the best tight end in football still. We're lucky to have him. And Jed York, if you're as steadfast at bringing back John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan like you should, then you need to come out right now and say, hey, listen, George Kittle, we're going to give you an extension. And we got to keep you here forever because he deserves to be a 49er forever. And I'll be pretty upset if he plays for another team. Again, it goes further than the numbers. He didn't have to play. He doesn't have to. He could have just literally said, hey, I'm going to take this off and I'm going to go home. Game doesn't mean anything. But the example he leads and the example that he leads with is why the culture is still fully intact. I mean, Fred Warner's been playing with a fractured ankle. He doesn't have to keep playing. Culture's intact. We're good. We're good when it comes to that. So yeah, George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, A+. Way to go. I did really enjoy Isaac Guerrero catching the football. Would I have liked to have seen them run the football a little bit more? Kyle Shanahan, I'm looking at you. Yes, at the end of the game, it would have been kind of cool to see maybe one or two runs mixed in. Did definitely feel like this was a Deebo Samuel game in which they made a concerted effort to use him that way to spring Ricky Pearsall more with more routes. By the way, Ricky Pearsall, 20 routes on the outside. Oh, no, 20 routes on the slot, 19 on the outside, showing his versatility in and out of the slot. So you probably will see him move around a little bit more. It's going to be very interesting to figure out what happens. I think if, let's just say, we did the hypothetical that Deebo Samuel's not here next year, the three wide receivers are literally going to be Pearsall, Jennings, Ayuk. And that's pretty good. You'll feel good with that as well with Kittle too. We'll figure out what's going to happen with Juszczyk, but you feel good about that, and we'll figure out what's going on with Deebo. On the defensive side, Nick Bosa was incredible in this game, man. 7 pressures, 2 quarterback sacks, 2 quarterback hits in true pass sets. His PFF grade was like 96. He was all over the place. If you watched this game, then you saw him in the backfield the entire time. And again, it just speaks to his leadership. He didn't have to play in this game. He didn't have to play in this game at all. Nick Bosa could have just said, man, you know what? I don't want to do this. Who cares? This is a meaningless game. But again, when players walk into this locker room and they see Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and George Kittle laying it out on the line, and they how can you not feel that way? And how could you not, from the outside looking in, whether you're a free agent, whether you're a draft prospect, whether you're somebody who has a chance to come into this building, how could you not look and want to be a part of that culture? So again, we asked the question, is Kyle Shanahan losing the locker room? No. How could he? Look at those guys that don't have to, that have gotten paid, that literally are leading this team by example and going out there and laying it out on the line. I think the culture is fine. So with Guerrero, I was really happy to see the way that he catches passes. Obviously, his wide receiver experience shows itself, but I would have liked to have seen them run the football a little bit more just to give the defense a little bit more to worry about on offense. But Guerrero was good, man. I think, again, they've got a good one again next year. It'll obviously be McCaffrey. We'll find out if Jordan Mason's going to be back. We'll see if maybe the 49ers go back to the well in the draft or in free agency, or they find somebody as well too. I know they're not going to run it back with Patrick Taylor and, any of those guys. But, yeah, Guerrero's learning. And I think you can see exactly what the 49ers liked with his skill set and how well he did at the combine and what type of runner he is. You see 31, he has bursts like Mostert, but once he starts to figure out how to run the football, he's going to be a little bit better. Give me 1 second. So yeah, offensively, that's what I got. Like I said, Cole McKivitz, highest rated pass blocker. Go figure. And I think for all intents and purposes, the left tackle and everybody else who had to be thrown into the fire, they did fine. I mean, again, you really can't argue when a team put up 34 points, right? So, hey, it is what it is. At least the game was fun. I think that was probably best case scenario, was the game being fun and the 49ers losing to not, lose their draft status or anything like that for the tank people. But yeah, defensively, Nick Bosa was incredible in this game, man. Renardo Green, again, obviously everyone's going to get on him for the Amon-Ra St. Brown coverage bust, and that's fair. How much of that has to do with Sorensen's play calling and putting him in position, that's one thing. But other than that, Renardo Green allowed 5 catches for 31 yards and 0 yards after catch. Still ranks number 12 in the league at corner with coverage grade, and that's no small feat for a rookie. So regardless, he did give up a touchdown on a coverage bust, and you could see Fred Warner was really upset. The other touchdown, everyone else was picking on Isaac Yiadom, but Renardo Green looks great, man. And I think, again, home run pick with Green, and now you have Lenore. It looks really good in the secondary. You feel a lot better about it. Obviously, you would have felt better about the defense, and it's hard to praise the defense that gave up 40 points. But considering everybody being injured, considering how this was a little bit of a track meet one way or another, now, you have Renardo Green and you have Diamador Lenore, and you feel good about that. And you have Malik Mustafa, and you figure out now what's going to happen with Hufanga and how that works. And we obviously all want Greenlaw back. And just, again, like, the defense did give up 40 points, but there were players who played well. I just felt like the Lions just attacked Isaac Yiadom all day. And that's smart. Think about it, right? When you're facing a defense, do you go at the player who's the best player, or do you go at the advantage and the matchup that you have? And that's essentially what's going to happen anytime 22 is on the field. So unfortunately, it just happened that way. And give the Lions credit. They wanted this one badly. They wanted this one real badly. I mean, they played everybody all the way down the stretch. They wanted to win. They were talking crazy after the game. They have every right to say whatever they want. They won the game, but you don't get your NFC championship back for that. But at the same time, I know the feeling because the 49ers were in that same position when they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, and then they went into Philly and they beat the dog shit out of the Eagles, and we were all really happy, and so were the 49ers. But the only difference is the 49ers actually whipped the Eagles' ass. The Lions walked out with a 6-point win, and they should be a little bit more concerned about their defense moving forward. If they don't lose, if they lose this game on Sunday and they have to go somewhere like Tampa Bay, they're in trouble. Defensively, they'll get picked apart. And they'll have to do it on the road. So yeah, the Lions wanted this one badly. They won, but they were talking crazy like, "Oh, we spanked them. You won by 6, and you don't get the NFC Championship back." It's not the same. Like when the 49ers beat the Eagles, they beat the shit out of the Eagles, like very badly, to the point where even Lane Johnson at the end of the season was like, "Yeah, the Niners broke us." It's not the same thing at all. Niners been broken. Niners have been broken. You can't break what's broken. You can't kill what's dead. So whatever. The Lions really wanted this one. Good for them. They got it. But they got to take they got to take they got to take advantage of this game on Sunday because they better not be a 14 win team going on the road. It's not going to be a good thing for them as well too. So, but yeah, defensively, you look at everything. Obviously, when you give up 40 points, you don't like it. But it just felt like after watching the game over again, they were just attacking Yadam over and over and over. And the 49ers, when you have coverage busts, it's fair to ask, what is the coach doing? What is he coaching? Why aren't they executing? If you want to know why the player isn't executing, you have to ask the coach. One way or another, you can put a player into position to do something. If they don't execute, it still kind of comes back to you. Now, does that suck? Sure. But we've got to figure out an answer here. Again, I'm not really as keen on what the answer is, but I'm not going to say that when a player executes or doesn't execute that I want to talk to the coach and ask him like what happened. I like what happened. So we'll find out. And I think what Daniel says is that he thinks that Sorensen's going to get another year. I think so too, just based on the way that they've been talking. So, I mean, it's not up to me. Nobody cares what I think. If they cared what I thought, they wouldn't have drafted a stupid kicker in the 3rd round. If they cared what I thought, they would have drafted Terry McLaurin instead of Jalen Hurd. They don't care about things like that. They don't care. So they don't care what we think about Nick Sorensen. The point is what you have to read in the tea leaves is what Kyle Shanahan's saying, what the defense is saying, what all those guys are saying, because we knew for a fact that Steve Wilkes was going to get fired last year. And, he's got to come down from the booth and he's got to do this. Like all year was the same thing with Wilkes, like all year. So I think, again, it is what it is. Whether you want him or not, I think you got to prepare yourself. And I don't know how that makes you feel, but it's not necessarily our decision. So you got to just roll with it. Almost 30 minutes, guys. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for when we go live. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody. Thank you guys for joining. I understand that there's college football on right now, and I understand that you guys are with your family. Hopefully you guys are partying responsibly, and hopefully you guys are checking in on your people and being responsible, and also, making sure that you check in on your people. This is the time that a lot of people wish that they could spend with their people and they can't. So if you have people around that you can, make sure that you check in on them and make sure that you, tell people how you feel while they're here. Enough with that mushy shit or anything like that. But again, Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle, great game. Nick Bosa, great game. Really excited for Renardo Green. Just got to figure out where this team is going and what's going to happen and how much of what all these injuries to this defense means for, like, the future and what goes on with Sorensen. And shout out to Rod, man. Congrats on winning the NFC West, man. I think you're going to be a tough out. I don't think anybody really wants to play you guys, man. I think I would love to be that team that just gets in there and nobody wants to play. So, but yeah, again, to top the news back off, Brock Purdy probably not going to play in Week 18. Not a UCL tear, thank God. Doesn't really put a damper on the game. Just get him out. That's it. Let's do the Josh Dobbs revenge game narrative thing, because that'll be a lot of fun, and we're all about having fun for the rest of the season since there's only one more game. Again, like on December 31st, you sit here and you really reflect on the entire season, right? And no matter what, no matter how this season has gone and no matter how shitty it is, I'm still sad that it's over because I don't care what anybody says. It's like we're all angry about like, oh well, we got to watch this game, and it's so, and then like we end up in June or July, and we're like, God, I'd literally stab someone to watch Josh Dobbs play against Mac Jones in a game. Like you can't have it both ways. We literally can't just act like we don't care about the game anymore because things haven't gone our way. When as soon as the summer comes or as soon as we get bored, we're gonna sit there and say, "Man, I really wish that I could watch, Tanner Mordecai face Jimmy Garoppolo in a game or something like that." Like we're gonna miss football. Like we would literally step on someone's foot to watch like the Chicago Bears face the Seattle Seahawks again, even if the game's gonna end 7-6 because we get so starved for football. So yeah, that's that's kind of where I'm at. I just feel like damn, it's like the season's already over. It's weird to say on December 31st that it's done. I mean, it has been done for a few weeks, but yeah, I'm sad that it's over. I don't care. I'll take a bunch of bad games as long as it's football. Always remember this. Bad football is better than good basketball or good baseball. I don't care. I will die on that hill. I would rather watch two horrific NFL teams go at it than whatever, than game 2 of the NBA finals. I don't give a shit. Like I don't care. Like that's not gonna and if you look at the ratings, no one else does either. I'd rather put some bets in on a horrible game than like sit there and watch like an NBA final game. Like I'm good. I'm good. Even if even if I had to choose and the Yankees were in the World Series, those fucking losers, I wouldn't want to watch that World Series either. Like I'd rather watch football than watch the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. So yeah, just it just feels like it just goes fast, man. And it goes a little too fast and just it it always ends and it always ends too quickly and then we always just wind up complaining about wanting to have football. So yeah, and again, the 49ers right now sit with the number 11th pick. They can't do any better, unfortunately, due to strength of schedule. So, or is it the 10th pick, 10th or 11th, if I'm not mistaken? Someone will correct me in the chat. But the problem is that even a loss will keep them there based on strength of schedule, so they can't even move it for a little bit further. I guess one more thing that we can talk about is the only good thing that really has come out of the 49ers losing, besides obviously draft position and everything, is the 49ers opponents are set and you have a 4th place schedule now. Now, if we think the 49ers are going to bounce back and we're going to get a bunch of guys back and you think this team is going to reload, then it sounds good. This sounds good, right? So I'm going to leave the home games out for the NFC West games. That's obvious. Arizona, Los Angeles, Seattle. But the 49ers in 2025 at home will have the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans, the Chicago Bears. All of those sound like winnable games. Not to get too far ahead of myself. All of those sound like winnable games, depending on, what happens in the offseason. And then away, you've got the Cleveland Browns, the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the New Orleans Saints, the New York Giants in New York. By the way, I'm definitely going to that because it's literally 10 minutes from my house. So if you're in New York for the Giants game, make sure you stop through. And Tampa Bay. Hey, a 4th place schedule doesn't sound so bad, especially if we think we're getting all these guys back. We're going to add to this roster. 49ers might be back quicker than you think, and it might be obviously because of the talent that they're able to build, but the opponents right there in front of them, that doesn't sound too crazy right now, unless barring a historic change to the Tennessee Titans organization. All of a sudden they become a juggernaut and in the Cleveland Browns and all you've still got shots in those games and you still feel good about them. I'm willing to bet that even right now, even with this team, and I think, yeah, here it is. Perfect. I'm willing to bet that even with this team right now, and there was an odds maker, and they had to put these games up, and we don't know what the draft is going to look like. We don't know who's going to be available. I think that the Niners will be favored in almost all those games, all of them. So yeah, it's looking good. If you want some positivity, here it is. George Kittle's really fucking good at football. Ricky Pearsall looks really good these last 2 games. That's really good as well too. And the schedule looks good, and you have a really good draft pick. So, yeah, don't smile because the season's – don't cry because the season's over, even though I'm going to because I really don't know what to do with myself when there's not football to watch. But smile because of look what's coming. Look what's coming up. So, it's looking up. And then, you get the vote of confidence about Kyle and John. That these guys were going to be back. I didn't think that anybody really, really believed that they wouldn't be back. But Jed York with a strong statement saying they're coming back as well, too. We'll figure out what's going on with the defensive coordinator. The special teams coordinator, I don't even know if they care. about special teams at all. And I think that's probably something that you could throw at the feet of Kyle and be upset with him about. But yeah, there's a little bit of positivity moving forward with the team. You know, you look around and you think, hey, what if this player develops and we get this guy back, and then you're still under the salary cap for next season as well too. You still have moves to make. It feels like Javon Hargrave's not going to be here. It feels like, you know, possibly Deebo Samuel won't be here depending on how they want to move it. And then you have a full draft class and free agency. Team's going to look a little bit different next season. And I think that's the exciting part about the offseason, is because there's a variety of ways. There's a variety of ways that the 49ers can fix this and retool, rebuild, whatever word you guys want to use. It's exciting because there's no right, wrong way, and they can go about this many ways. So yeah, there's a little bit of positivity. Maybe maybe I'm just trying to not be as super negative because the season has just been one, like, bad beat after the next. But yeah, honestly, it's not looking that bad. But I will say this. Thank you guys for the full year of following the content and tuning in, liking, subscribing, the instant reactions, everything. If I wasn't doing shows, checking in to make sure that I'm all right. I love the community that we've built. And when I look through my analytics, it's always returning viewers. And I love that. And I just want to say thank you, because without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do shows like this. And again, it's at the end of the year, so I'm just talking from a year standpoint and just how well everything's gone with us, and the people that I see the same names all the time in our chat, and the shout out to the channel members and everyone who supports, and anybody who's ever sent a video of mine or someone else's to their friend, like me and Andrew. Like, if you've ever sent like Sprint Right Option to anybody else, thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff without you guys as well too. So before I continue to get more mushy, I'm just going to say I'm going to cut this right now at about 37 minutes. Again, guys, give me a like, please. That helps a lot. Let's continue to build in this next season, man. I think, again, there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot going on with, how they can go in the draft. A lot of great players, man. A lot of players in free agency, bringing guys back. There's a multitude of ways that the 49ers can retool and rebuild this thing, man. So it's exciting to get into the offseason. I just didn't want to get into the offseason this early. So draft prospects, all that stuff, everything in terms of the offseason is coming. Might have something really cool to announce in about a week if it comes through. So I'll tease that a little bit. And if it comes through, I'll let you guys know, because it should be some good content coming down the pipe. And if not, obviously Senior Bowl, Combine, all that stuff, draft, everything as well too. And I'll definitely be back this week for the whole week of previewing the game and instant reaction, all that. We only get one more week left of it. That's the sad part about 18 weeks of football, is it goes fast. So you got to cherish all of it. But I'm going to get out of here, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, Happy New Year. Enjoy your time with your family. Please be responsible. Check in on your people. And as always, let's go Niners. Peace. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte.